Hello. I know I said I wasn't going to make any more videos, but I just have one thing that I need to talk about, so I'm making one more. We need to talk about Skyward Sword HD. People have been wanting Skyward Sword HD since they made Twilight Princess HD for the Wii U. A lot of people have been looking forward to it. A lot of people... there are rumors right now that there's going to be Skyward Sword HD on the Switch. I'm not so sure about those rumors, even though rumors are... Nintendo rumors, anyways, have been pretty true recently. Like, most of them come true. But either way, I still feel like it's something we really need to talk about. The future of Zelda, as we knew it before Breath of the Wild, kind of depends on Skyward Sword HD and whether or not that can actually happen and is actually done well. The thing with Skyward Sword HD is that they really need to change it completely. And we've seen that they're willing to change games based on what the fans didn't like. Like, for the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time, you know, people talked about how it's confusing or whatever, and like having to equip the boots and stuff. So for Ocarina of Time 3D on the 3DS, they made the boots an equipable item, and they have little, you know, like colored doors and paths that show you how to get to each place where you change the water level. And then we see that in Wind Waker HD as well, where the Triforce quest near the end of the game is very tedious because you have to find all 8 of these charts and then get them translated for like 800 or I think more than that each. And so in Wind Waker HD, they made it only 3 Triforce pieces instead of 8. We know that when they make these remakes, they want to change the things that people have judged or criticized the previous adaptations for. But those, in comparison to the problems with Skyward Sword, are relatively minor, because the thing with Skyward Sword, the big problem, the thing that everybody points to as being the problem with Skyward Sword, which I agree with, is the motion controls I find them unintuitive personally. I think other people might word that differently. Fuck, what the fuck is happening? And so if they were to make a Skyward Sword HD, they would have to get rid of the motion controls entirely. And we know that they're willing to do that too, because for Mario 3D All-Stars, they mapped Mario's spin to a button rather than shaking it like you had to in the original Wii version. Mapping the spin to a button rather than having to shake the Joy-Con or whatever was pretty unanimously agreed to be a great change. But they didn't have to change Mario Galaxy at all in order to implement that. For Skyward Sword, it's like so much of the design of the world, and particularly the enemies, depends upon the motion controls, the gyro in specific. And in order to get rid of that, which is what they need to do if they were to make a Skyward Sword HD, they would have to completely redesign the enemies and even the bosses entirely. And that is a Herculean task, to say the least. Like, take the Girahim battle, it's entirely contingent on moving it in the right direction. So if you take out motion controls, what are you left with for that battle? You'd have to come up with another strategy and another, you know, obstacle to figure out in those battles with Girahim, which is that's like serious design work. Serious. It's like, it completely changes the game. But that's kind of the point. And to me, if they make a Skyward Sword HD, they take out the motion controls, and if they're able to make the changes, I think it will completely change people's perception of Skyward Sword. I think it will allow like the story and the design to shine a lot more than it did when the motion controls were holding it back. And I think the fan reception might completely shift if they make Skyward Sword HD and get rid of the motion controls, which they'd have to do anyways. But the thing is, if Skyward Sword HD works out, I think that means that there is a future for more linear 3D Zeldas, like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, like all of them from Ocarina of Time to Skyward Sword, because obviously with Breath of the Wild, now Zelda is more of an open world thing, and if Skyward Sword doesn't work out, if they don't manage to do that, I don't think we're ever going to see that more linear, story-driven Zelda again. I mean, I don't know, Breath of the Wild 2 is not out, and I don't know where that's going to go. But But I imagine it'll still be open world, and by virtue of it being open world, the story will not be so controlled, and probably there'll be less of a story because there wasn't much story in Breath of the Wild. It was all about environmental storytelling rather than like a narrative with all of the narrative beats you expect from like, you know, a drawn out and controlled story. So yeah, I don't know. But I know I would personally love to see it because there were obviously a lot of things I found really interesting when I played Skyward Sword, but I found the motion controls just held me back. But I hope that that Nintendo is actually willing to put in the work to make Skyward Sword HD what it needs to be. So I hope everyone watching agrees with me at least somewhat, or at least can understand. I can't imagine somebody being like, they keep the motion controls in. I mean, I know some people are like, you know, they weren't that bad, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but I want to see it happen. I want Skyward Sword HD I want Skyward Sword to be redeemed, honestly. And I want that version of Skyward Sword that is more of a real game and less of a gimmick. That's really shady. So yeah, hopefully we see that. Hopefully Nintendo is willing to put in the work, because I think Skyward Sword deserves it. And so do Nintendo fans, honestly. Bye.